should we always introduce ourselves, or is it just?
I guess people on the news still introduce themselves every time.
So what do you think?
I don't
Okay.
Just jump in. So book 9, right?
Yes, book 9. Technically, the last full
book.
Book.
Then there's the essay and finishing up the story.
Of Abdullah and his brothers.
What's happening in that one?
Was he the one whose brothers were turned into dogs because?
Right.
Is that the one?
Yeah, and explain why the brothers became the dogs.
That's right.
And then he had to beat the dogs, and then he didn't beat the dogs, and then something bad happened to him.
The djinn came to beat him.
Right.
And the one who saved him.
So he started beating the dogs again.
It was mandatory to beat his own brothers who were turned into dogs.
Maybe there's some deeper symbolism to all these stories that I'm not grasping.
I actually really like the stories in this book.
This one?
I think it's probably my favorite, but I can't. It might also be because there weren't that many couplets.
Right.
I hate reading those things. They are so irrelevant to the whole story, and I thought, it's like, why? And they go on and on too sometimes. So this one, I just really thought that we had the chance to fully enjoy the flow of the story.
Right. This one, I would say, had one of my favorite twists, and that the last story from the previous book was so boring, and then it bleeds into the opening story to this one, and it's the woman who just kind of
Miriam the Girdle Girl,
who just started just slaying everybody, had some knives and started killing her brothers and beheading everybody. Complete turn.
I wasn't expecting that either.
So that made starting off, because it's when the ending story is kind of so dull, it's hard to be like, okay, time to keep going. But now with that little surprise, I started getting into this one. Then it went into the ones where all the mini stories where it was the men versus the women, basically.
Yeah.
And I kept getting the feeling throughout the different stories of this book, especially that second set of stories, is that women cause all men's problems. Any problem any man ever has is because of a woman.
Yes, that's one of the biggest themes in this whole. In all of the Arabian Nights, I think that was the story of King Jaliyad and his vizier Shemus, right?
Right.
And there were also the different parables that they told to make their point, I guess, to the king.
In the back of my mind too, the vizier kept getting so frustrated because the king, at the time, he was 17 or whatever, and he kept siding with his new wife and all the concubines. But as he's a 17-year-old boy who now has all these wives, and of course he's going to side with them. It didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
The next story seemed weird to me.
With the cloth dyer and the barber, that was a little strange, where the barber just sort of let the cloth dyer just take advantage of him.
Right.
And then
But it had this weird, you find out that this magic ring, he just hits a button and people's heads just chop off. Okay, so that was exciting. But if he knew he had this magic ring, then why is he trying to feed them to the fishes? It just seemed like this roundabout way, so just so that the barber could conveniently find this magic ring. It felt really out of place. I'm getting my phone's just going off. It's connected.
Do you remember the story of Kamar al-Zaman and the jeweler's wife, where she was tricking her husband so that she could end up with al-Zaman?
That's not the one with the mermaid, right?
That is where all of the men were named Abdullah.
That's it. I remember there was a story with mermaids that everyone was named the same, and I couldn't follow. I didn't know what was going on.
That one was funny.
I don't remember this one. So
she was the one who, there was a stone or something that the king had want to cut a certain way, so her husband did it to his specifications. But then, to repay him, the wife said that she wanted to go through the town and have everybody stay in the mosque or something. Do you remember that? Yes, and then
complete blanks of this.
And anyone who was left out, including the dogs and the cats would be killed. And like she played a trick on him where like the man, where he ended up with someone like her, and it was her, but you know, so
that's the one where they had the secret tunnel room.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Mr.
Yeah.
Souterrain or something. Yes.
Yeah.
That one was really strange, I thought.
It just seemed so convenient that they had this secret room that was just
Tunnel.
a tunnel that went from where they needed to be to exactly back and forth. Yeah, and then he would like run over to the guy and be like, "Where's my wife?" And he's like, "No one's here." Yeah, I do remember that. Wasn't the worst book out of all of them, I don't think.
I really liked it.
It's probably one of the more easier ones to read, but probably just like you said, like not all the couplets.
But yeah, I mean, everything just sort of ran together.
Just like one giant paragraph.
Yes. I mean, it's really hard to believe that we're finally finished with this, and that we actually did it. I mean, I think that's the craziest thing.
Not there yet. Like I said, after this, only 1,000 more. That's it. Easy.
Okay.
1,000 books. No time.
Oh.
Under the Banner of Heaven by John Krakauer.
You first.
You know, sometimes when it's a rare thing, but like you're reading something and then you turn the page and you go, "Oh, that's the ending." That happened with me with this. I thought I was gonna like sit down for like, yeah, I thought I was about to keep going, and like I would have kept going, no problem. I turned the page and it said like acknowledgments or whatever. I was like, "Oh, we're done." This makes it so easy to read. Like I don't know how he does it. It's so much information, but you never feel bogged down by any of it.
It really seems so effortless. I mean, just the writing. For being the book that it is, I think that it's very readable. It was really excellently written.
It was. And it was fascinating. You think you know things, and you know nothing.
Would you not agree, though, that it's probably one of the most bizarre books? It is just really, really out there.
Present tense stuff, like the stuff in the 80s, or the history stuff?
Well, the history is fascinating, but just when he really started to explain the religion's polygamy, I was quite dumbfounded by some of the by what's accepted, I guess, in the religion.
But I think he had to, because none of the murders had nothing to do with polygamy per se, but I think he needed to put all that in so you could understand the fundamentalist nature of the brothers and why they did what they did. So one of the things that surprised me was the Meadow Mountain Massacre?
Yes.
Like that blew my mind. Like that was more shocking than the murders to me.
Oh, we can't forget to include Sir Richard Francis Burton.
Our friend Richard Sir Francis Burton made some cameo appearances in a footnote.
In a footnote, yes.
So yeah, apparently he visited the Mormon community in Utah back in the 1800s, and really nice things to say.
But yeah, there were some parts and moments where I just had to, you know how you have your OMG moments, you just have to put the book down, and and gasp once or twice. I don't know.
Ron apparently had the
revelation,
and like he seemed like the level-headed one, but as the court cases hit more of the 2000s, like Ron was brash and rude, and like seemed on the surface like crazy, and Dan, even when he was talking about all those ideas, just seemed so level-headed, and like it's the guy you kind of want to hang out with. Like, no, I'm just stuck in jail. This is my mission.
So I recently re-listened to some lectures by Alan Watts, and there was actually a line that he mentioned. The most dangerous graven images are not those made of wood or stone, but of ideas.
Right.
And it's really true.
Yeah.
You know, see, because they just really, they got an idea into their minds, and then they just really ran with it.
I did like the one psychologist who was like, you can't say that Ron's crazy because 90% of the population believes in God, so by saying that, we're all crazy. And like wasn't he the one that was a Mormon himself?
I think so. That was a valid point, though, and I think it it was a point of contention. I mean, for a while during the trial.
Read John Krakauer books, even if it's not this one. Read one of his books.
I am just so absolutely fascinated by Mormon history now.
I'd give it a 5.
Me too.
I'd do that. I love to have. So next time we'll be talking about Meddling Kids, which is supposedly some sort of take on Scooby-Doo. I don't know. It's like Scooby-Doo for adults or something. We'll find out.
Do you need to check your phone?
Yes, it's actually said the key stopped working. And the car key, she sent back. It's a key on her computer.
Oh no.
So at least that's not the car key.
All right.
So we can figure that one out. We'll figure that out. You're making cameos in the next video. Did you read anything else good there?
Yes! Lulu and Pip, as you know, I read. Such a cute book. It's a book about a little girl and her doll. They leave the city for the weekend and they go camping. Just nice, sweet, and just so cute. What I needed. I also read, do you remember Sigrid Nunez, who wrote The Friend? So she has a new book out. And it's called What Are You Going Through?
You didn't want something sad, so you went towards Sigrid Nunez.
Well, I mean, this one it's not the happiest book, but I just love the tone, I guess, of the whole book. It's quiet, very introspective. So this one, it has the same narrative voice as The Friend, but the narrator is never really identified.
I stole their cord.
Okay.
They're looking for.
Okay. So this book is mainly about her everyday encounters with different people and then their relationships, and she just quietly just describes that, and I just.
So better or worse than The Friend?
I don't like it as much as The Friend.
Okay.
But it's still enjoyable.
So let's see.
All right, so let's hear.
Let's see.
Did you enjoy most of them?
Somewhere hit or miss. Let's see. This Ant Kind. That's at the top because it's what I finished last night.
Okay.
And it's Charlie Kaufman, the director from adaptation and Eternal Sunshine. He wrote a novel, and it's a beast. I don't even know how I feel about it. It feels so pretentious, but it almost feels like that's the joke. So some parts get so start getting so dry, but it feels like that's supposed to be the humor. But then the humor almost gets funny, but it's almost like he just had this stream of consciousness thought and just never stopped, and then didn't edit anything out and didn't know what he was doing and just kept going based on what he did before. It was something. It was stuff about like movies and this film that disappeared and only one man can remember. And I was like, that seems like right up my alley. So maybe I just had higher hopes for it since I'm a big Charlie Kaufman fan. But you didn't hate it. It's huge, so you have to be committed to it, and I don't think most people would be that committed to it.
Wow.
How to Sit. Blanking on who wrote that book. It's over there.
It sounds very contemplative.
I'm totally blanking on the author. Kind of embarrassing. It's told in stories and essays, but you don't know what's the story and what's true. And as you read these different, because it's in the nonfiction section.
Oh, okay.
And as you read it, you kind of pick up on what could be true. She even tells you at the beginning, she's like, "These are based on memories." And memories is nothing but a story, but memories can also be wrong. And about her life and different stories about her mother and her grandmother and about death and some of the hardships she's seen. I would recommend that one.
Okay.
I read The New Dogman, of course.
Of course. And I absolutely love the titles. They are just so funny and just so cute. Like Crime and Punishment or something.
Tyrese Coleman. His name is Tyrese Coleman. That's.
Okay.
But yeah, Crime and Punishment. And this one, he's a mad genius because it's so funny and it's so silly. And Our New Craft is actually based on the new book with the munchie, the lunch bag. But then there's a part in it that gets so deep that I almost got misty-eyed.
Really?
Yeah, he knows how to tell a story to kids.
Have you read all of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're really good.
Okay.
I read a comic called Bitterroot, which is over there as well. This is probably one of the best books that I've read in a long time. The illustrations are really good. The story's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all an allegory for like racism. Like,
Okay.
if you get a chance, if you find the Bitterroot, or if you find the Bitterroot or whatever, read that one. It's great.
Okay.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Dark Knight Metal. It was okay. I read the first Umbrella Academy. Actually enjoyed it. I didn't know with all the hype of the show if it would actually be worth it, but it had some like strange characters, a couple shocking moments. I enjoyed it. Cosme Comics, which is a Italo Calvino short story.
Oh, yes!
And he built them over like years. He started like the first set in the 60s and it kept going, and this was just a collection of all of them. It's just these abstract concepts. There's one about, in the middle, about a car ride, but it also takes place in like describing like time and stuff. It's, some of them are hard and some of them are more fascinating than others. Classic, well not classic Calvino, which started off with like historical stuff, and when he broke away from that, he just started doing these abstract stories, and this is one of them. So enjoyed
really
that
like
one.
That one.
Biblio style, which is basically an adult picture book of different famous people's bookshelves. A lot of it just seemed like, oh, these people are so rich and fancy. But there's one, the guy who wrote My Struggle, Carl Knausgård.
Oh, is he the Norwegian?
Right. He wrote the 6-volume set.
Yes, yes.
His bookshelf, it was my kindred spirit. There was like food, like plates of food on stacks of books, and like just ashtrays full of cigarettes, and like just different emptied out like liquor bottles and Coke bottles, and then just all these books around, like just.
It's so good to know that
Like you've seen my desk. My organization skills are very unique to me. Dragon Warrior, which is a kids book, because we're started a new little online kids book review thing, and it was basically like Percy Jackson, but told with Chinese mythology, but like, I think better than Percy Jackson. I'm not usually like, oh, I need to get the sequel to this book, and I'm really excited to read this sequel to this kids book. It's the twists and turns that it takes. It's like you see from the cover, the girl's holding the staff. You know she's going to pick it up sort of the same style. Like nothing's that surprising, and then like surprising things happen that just, and there's like still like the humor with Percy Jackson. It didn't feel as formulaic. It was really good. Really read Desire by what's his name, Frank something. It's a book of poetry.
I think you like poetry more than I do.
This particular book, a lot of it just went over my head. It didn't really resonate with me.
Okay.
But apparently he's like he's a really good poet. Maybe this wasn't the right book to start off with. And then of course, I've read the next Bad Guys.
Oh yeah.
The third one, I was like, couldn't wait for the fourth because the third one was so funny, but kind of lost me again. But we'll see. Yeah, I read another Attack on Titan. But yeah, that's what I did. And I guess we should let them do their job. Yeah, on to the next
Book 10.
Book 10, and see if Shahrazad has saved her life with all these tales. So yeah, one more. We'll keep on trucking.
1,000 more books.
Car keys. Oh, I don't know what to do with the car keys.